Praise is not respect. Praise is what people hand you to end a conversation. Nobody has been withholding the real thing from you. You have been paid in a currency you were never taught to count. There are 8 signs, and over the next half hour I'll give you all 8, in order. The 5th one you have misread nearly every day of your adult life. By the end, you'll be able to read your own standing without asking a single person to confirm it. You are receiving most of these signals already. You have them filed under something else. Sign 1. Bad news reaches you while it is still small. People hide problems. It is one of the most dependable things about us. The instinct is older than any job you have held. Conceal the damage and hope it resolves before anyone counts the cost. So when someone overrides that instinct and carries the problem to you early while it is still small enough to fix, they have already made a judgment about you. They decided you would not punish them for speaking. That is respect before anyone has said a warm word to you. 2 managers work the same floor of the same company. The first learns about a botched shipment from a client's lawyer, 11 weeks late, in writing with a number attached. The second learns about the same class of problem on a Tuesday night from a 23-year-old standing in the doorway with a laptop half closed against her chest, saying, "I think I broke something, and I don't know yet how bad it is." Neither manager had better information systems. Neither one was smarter than the other. One of them had been judged safe to tell. Warmth would have let her wait until morning. Respect is what put her in that doorway on a Tuesday night. In 1996, Amy Edmondson set out to measure error rates across hospital nursing units and found the relationship ran backwards. The higher performing units reported more errors, not because they made more mistakes, but because their people were willing to say so out loud. So stop hearing "I need to tell you something" as an imposition on your evening. Count it, then protect it. Make the first 10 seconds of bad news cost the speaker nothing. Give the first 10 seconds no sigh and no question that starts with why. Charge for it once and the flow stops, and you will be the last to know for the rest of your career. Most people get the next one backwards. They spend years trying to fix the thing that is actually the proof. Sign 2. People argue with you to your face. Agreement is cheap. It costs nothing to nod at someone whose opinion changes nothing.
That is precisely what we do with people we have quietly written off. We agree, we move on, we protect the afternoon. Disagreement is expensive. It burns social capital in front of witnesses, and nobody spends capital on a person who does not matter. For nearly 400 years, the Catholic Church paid a man to attack the case for sainthood, the promoter of the faith, the office created in 1587 and sharply curtailed in 1983, popularly the devil's advocate. His entire job was to assemble the strongest possible argument against a person the Church was already inclined to honor. The office existed because a verdict nobody had attacked was considered worthless. Now, the version you sat through last month. You float an idea. The quietest person at the table says, "I don't think that works." And instead of the conversation sliding politely past it, everyone turns and waits for your answer. Set that against the other meeting. Every head nods, the notes get written, the meeting ends early, and the room routes around you the way traffic routes around a pothole. Irving Janis cataloged this in 1972 and called it groupthink. He listed the absence of dissent among the symptoms of a group already failing. So when someone contradicts you in public, register what they just spent. Thank them out loud, by name, then answer the argument on its merits.
And grow suspicious of any room in which you are never wrong. You are not the smartest person in that room. You are the one being managed. The next one will feel like an insult the first time you hear it. Sit with it anyway. Sign 3.
You get handed the mess, not the medal. Respect is distributed as burden long before it is distributed as reward. The flattering assignment goes to whoever needs managing, whoever needs keeping. The broken assignment goes to whoever can be trusted with a bad outcome. Being handed the difficult thing is a verdict on your competence. It does not feel like one because you were taught that verdicts in your favor arrive feeling good. A chef opens a second restaurant and splits the line cooks. One is sent to the new kitchen, bright, photographed, 40 covers a night, a menu that cannot fail. The other stays behind on the old line with a demoralized crew, a walk-in that has been broken since March, and a health inspection in 9 days. Everyone congratulates the first one. There are toasts. Only one of those two was chosen for what they could survive. There is a quieter version of the same shape, and you may have already lived it. 4 siblings, 1 hospital room, 1 night that has to be covered. You are the one asked to take it. The others are told, "Don't worry, we'll handle the rest." Somebody read down a list of 4 names and stopped at yours.
Epictetus put it plainly in the Enchiridion, "You do not get to choose your role, only how well you play it. But do not turn that into a license to absorb unlimited unpaid work. Being trusted with the mess is the evidence. What you do next is the entire test. Before you resent the assignment, ask who else was in that room and was not asked. Then negotiate out loud. Resources, timeline, authority, in that order. Respected people are permitted to negotiate. That permission is part of the same signal you have been failing to count. The first 3 all involve someone moving toward you. The 4th is the reverse. It is about who stays away, and it is the hardest one to see, because nothing happens. Sign 4. Difficult people are careful with you. There is someone in your life who tests everybody. They interrupt, they push, they make small assessments out loud to see who flinches. They do not do it to you. They may not like you at all. Somewhere below conscious thought, they ran a calculation and decided you were not worth the cost. In 1981, Betty Grayson and Morris Stein filmed ordinary people walking down a New York sidewalk. They showed the footage to men imprisoned for violent assault and asked one question: which of these would you have approached? The raters kept picking the same people. What they were reading was movement, stride length, and whether the walk looked assembled or scattered. Strangers were sorting the street into approach and don't in a few seconds from the walk alone. That instinct does not stay on the sidewalk. It runs at family dinners too. The colleague who talks over every single person in the meeting and lets you finish your sentence. The relative with a firm opinion about everybody's marriage except yours. The manager who tries it on with the new hire and has never once tried it with you. You assumed you were being ignored. You were being skipped. So start tracking who does not push you. The absence of friction from a genuinely difficult person is a rating, issued silently, and renewed every time they walk past you and pick someone else. Read the negative space in your relationships, not only the loud parts. That is the last of the cold ones. Sign 5 is the one I promised you at the start, and everything before it asked you to reread other people's behavior. This one asks you to reread a silence you have been apologizing for your whole life. Sign 5. There is a pause after you speak. The room takes a beat before it answers you. Half a second, sometimes 2. You have spent years hearing that gap as rejection. Read the tape again. Picture the loud kitchen at a family dinner, everyone talking across everyone, cutlery, a television on in the next room. Or the meeting where people have been stepping on each other's sentences for 40 minutes. You say your piece, and when you finish, nothing. 2 full seconds of nothing. You feel exposed, so you start filling it. You restate the point in weaker words. You add a small joke to let everyone off the hook. Compare that with the person who begins talking over your last 3 words.
They stopped listening long before you stopped talking. In 2009, Tanya Stivers and her colleagues published a measurement of conversation across 10 wildly different languages: Danish, Japanese, languages spoken in Papua New Guinea and Namibia. The average gap between one person finishing and the next person beginning came out around 200 milliseconds, about the length of a blink. That is faster than a human being can plan a sentence, which means we are all doing the same thing constantly, predicting the end of your sentence and loading our reply while you are still speaking. Everyone. All the time. So when somebody lets 2 seconds sit after you stop, understand what happened inside that gap. They threw away the answer they had already built and started again from what you actually said. Stop rushing to fill the silence you created. You are stepping on your own evidence. Let it stand for 3 seconds. And when you hand someone else that pause, know exactly what you are giving them.
The last 3 leave no evidence at all. The 8th one you will never be able to verify, which is precisely why it counts the most. Sign 6. People let you see the unfinished version of themselves. Sometimes respect arrives as someone dropping their performance in front of you. You get the draft instead of the final. 3 shapes, and they are not the same. First, the colleague who is immaculate, never late, never once visibly unsure, texting you at 11:40 on a Sunday night. I genuinely don't know what I'm doing on this, and I can't say that to anyone else here. Second, the friend who buzzes you up without cleaning the apartment first. Dishes in the sink, laundry on the chair, and no apology offered for any of it. Third, and hardest, your father, who tells you the diagnosis before he tells your mother. Every one of those people ran a cost calculation before they let you see it. In 1997, Arthur Aaron and his colleagues sat total strangers down with a set of escalating personal questions. The study the internet later renamed the 36 questions. Under an hour of mutual disclosure produced measurable closeness between people who had walked in as nothing to each other. Disclosure is the currency. When someone spends it on you, the rating has already been assigned. So when you are handed the unfinished version, do not fix it, and do not upgrade it into advice.
Receive it and let it sit in the room exactly as it arrived. That is the entire job. Doing it well once buys you years. This next one you can test before the end of the week, which is not true of anything else on this list. Sign 7. Your no does not cost you the relationship. You said no, and they came back. That is the test most relationships fail quietly and permanently, and almost nobody bothers to score it. So decline something. The favor, the extra shift, the wedding 3 flights away that you cannot actually afford this year. Then watch what happens, because there are exactly 2 outcomes, and you have been treating them as one. In the first, there is no argument. There is a slow cooling. The messages get shorter, the invitations thin out over a season, and nobody ever tells you why, though you suspect. You were useful, and the utility expired. In the second, someone comes back 3 weeks later and asks again, more carefully, with an actual offer attached, or simply writes 4 words. Fair, what would work? Open both group chats on the same phone and hold them side by side. In one, your refusal ended the thread. In the other, your refusal started a negotiation. Only one of those rooms respects you, and until tonight you have been grieving both equally. Seneca opens his letters to Lucilius with the only thing he believes is genuinely ours: time. Be more miserly with it than with money, he says, because money can be returned to you. There is a logic underneath that most people miss. A yes from someone incapable of saying no carries no information. If your agreement is automatic, it is worth nothing to the person receiving it. Say one honest no this week, small, unhedged, with no paragraph of justification stapled to the end of it. Then watch carefully for a month. Whoever is still standing there is your actual standing, usually a higher number than you feared and a lower one than you hoped.
Both of those numbers are useful. There is one more, and it is the only one you will never be permitted to confirm. Sign 8. Your name does work in rooms you will never enter. The Romans had 2 words where English has 1. Potestas was formal power, the office, the authority to compel, the ability to make something happen because of where you sit. Auctoritas was weight, which is what happens when your opinion moves a decision without you being present to enforce it. At the end of his life, in the account he wrote of himself, Augustus said he had exceeded everyone in auctoritas, while holding no more potestas than the colleagues who shared each office with him. Your version is smaller and works the same way.
8 months after the fact, over a drink, someone mentions it offhand. That decision got held for 2 weeks because a person in the meeting said, "Let's find out what they think first." You were never told. You never would have been told. That conversation happened whether or not you believed in it, and it is a fair guess that the largest quantity of true things ever said about you will be said in rooms you were not in. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man gains a great deal of time by refusing to look at what his neighbor says or does and looking only at what he himself is doing. So stop trying to verify your standing. You get the occasional receipt, you never get the ledger. The search itself, the hinting, the quiet performance of workload at the end of a long day, is the one behavior that reliably lowers the number. Act as though the ledger is being kept accurately and stop asking to see the page. That was the promise I made you at the start, a way to read your standing without asking anyone to confirm it. Here it is, in one pass. Bad news arriving early. An argument to your face. The broken thing handed to you instead of the easy one. A difficult person leaving you alone. 2 seconds of silence. Somebody's unedited self. A no that was survived. And your name working somewhere across town tonight without you.
What you have been calling being ignored was a payment arriving in a currency you had not learned to count. You are not waiting to be respected. You are waiting to be told. Nobody is coming to tell you, because praise is what people say to end a conversation, and this was never one. If you are going to keep listening to something at this hour, make it something that does not flatter you. Subscribe. The next one is 7 things a self-respecting person never explains. The verdict is already in.